Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness, the place where you come to learn about Section 664 and the endowment engineering profession. We are teaching endowment engineering. It's a very important part of the future of the country. It'll make things a lot easier for everybody in terms of the amount of income that they'll get to spend in their lifetime. They'll reduce their taxes and they can benefit their favorite charity when they pass. That's the bargain that Congress gave us in 1969 when they passed this section of the tax code, Section 664. It says if you do something for charity when you pass away, we'll give you lower taxes while you're alive. The problem is that most people in the country don't even know that that bargain exists. We know that you can increase your income and reduce your taxes by using charity, and 664 is the most powerful tool to do that. You can plan, prosper, and pass on using the power of 664. You can check out our website at endowamerica.com, where we are explaining the use of social security devices, the use of 664, the pooled income funds, charitable gift annuities, when they're appropriate, when they should be used, and how you can benefit from them. One of the places where they do benefit greatly is in the transfer of intergenerational wealth. And my guest today is someone who deals with that primarily, Daniel Masuda Lehrman, calling to us from Hawaii. This is the first time we've interviewed anybody from Hawaii. How's the weather there?
It's good. It's we've had a lot of rain for the past couple of weeks, so It's getting some sunshine. It's really nice.
Are you on the Big Island or Oahu? Where are you?
I'm in Oahu and Honolulu.
Very cool.
Yep.
So Honolulu has the same problems as everybody else. People in Honolulu have the same issues there. I'm sure there is wealth there that needs to be guided and directed. So tell me a little bit about how you envision the ideal transfer. What is the ideal transfer of intergenerational wealth? How is that done in the best way possible?
I know there's a statistic out there, $90 trillion of wealth that's expected to be transferred between the older baby boomer generation to the younger Gen X, Gen Y generation. And part of the reason I started my firm was because I recognized that there's going to be this big gap between those that have been managing wealth successfully for a long time and those that have never managed wealth and will obviously need a lot of help with it. So there's another statistic out there that those that receive a windfall, whether it's a lottery winnings or an inheritance, like 90% of them tend to spend it down within a certain number of years. And so there's a big gap there. And I think that being mindful of taxes and also just a lot of other risk factors is going to be really important. And that's why I have a job.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You're a fee-only planner, right?
That's right.
Correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So people come, if I'm a listener right now, I'm not ultra wealthy. I'm not in the billionaire category. But, you know, today they talk about the millionaire next door. It doesn't take a lot to have $1 million in assets. Is there a break point where this doesn't work, or is it something that you need to do no matter what your level of wealth is?
You mean retaining a financial planner? Is there a certain threshold in terms of, you know, when do you really need a financial planner? I wouldn't say there's a certain threshold of wealth. I know most financial planning firms, wealth management firms, there tends to be a $1 million minimum where the fees that we charge tend to be worth it after that period. After you achieve that level of wealth, there tends to be certain complexities that come into play. But, you know, frankly, there's a lot of people below that threshold that also have wealth, perhaps not liquid wealth. Maybe it's all tied up in real estate, or maybe they're super high income earners, but they just have either a lot of debt or just not as many assets that also need a lot of financial planning. So part of my mission is to try to serve those people as well. And that's being fee only allows me to do that. Charging hourly, charging, you know, one-time financial plans, which has been popular lately. And so I wouldn't say there's a certain minimum for it, but the more money you have, the more complicated it gets.
How do you make a presentation to your client that they can follow? Do you set up, do you do a blueprint? Do you do a plan design? How do you communicate that when I'm assuming that you spent a lot of time with your potential client or your client. Mm-hmm. So you got to know them pretty well, because otherwise you couldn't tell them what to do, obviously. And they have to have a lot of confidence in you. You become a trusted advisor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in that role as a trusted advisor, you get a lot of information from them. And then you have your skill set is to help them plan it, how it's going to go in the future. Okay. So how do you communicate that? Just wondering what device you use.
So there's a couple of common questions that are almost always asked when I meet with a prospective client. It's typically going to be, when can I retire? How much can I afford to spend? How long will my money last in retirement? And it's really about addressing, my process is about discovering what their core concerns, what their core priorities are, whether it's, I want to make sure I can retire at this age and be able to live this, live this certain lifestyle, or it can be, I want to do that in addition to leaving a certain amount of money behind to my heirs. So it's about identifying kind of what their core priorities are or core goals are. And then identify the priority between what's most important, retirement, leaving a legacy, et cetera. And then figuring out what are they most afraid of? What questions do they have? And that's what I use to try to tailor the proposal of, this is what you'll get from working with me. I think financial planners, we have the curse of it's difficult to quantify the value that we provide. There's advisors alpha that says, advisors typically add 3 to 4%, but it's not a guarantee. And that's really more investment related. It's about behavioral coaching and things like that. Telling someone you're going to be in a better spot financially by working together. It's not as tangible as, other professions, frankly. So
you're doing a holistic approach, I believe, is what you're just
correct.
You're just defining that in what you just said. That holistic approach goes beyond just investment advice.
That's right.
But in a way, it's a very comforting feeling to know that your clients trust you that much to ask you those questions. When you're doing this holistic planning, what is the role of the family in this regard? Do you bring in the family to the picture? Do you get them involved in the holistic planning for an individual? Is that part of what you do as far as intergenerational transfers? Because people need to know, I guess, what to expect, right?
Absolutely. It's really important. And I think it's one of the areas that a lot of financial planning firms fall short, is not engaging the second generation, the third generation. I would say more specifically, though, just engaging the spouse is oftentimes overlooked. And that's, I think, a big area of opportunity for financial planners. Is there's a lot of wealth being transferred. The baby boomers are getting older, and typically one spouse will handle the finances while the other spouse is less involved. And when that more involved spouse passes away and the less involved spouse inherits that money, they're suddenly left with not only having to deal with grieving for their spouse, but then having to learn how to manage a significant portion of wealth that they've never done before. And that's where, in my opinion, financial planners will add the most value, because that's where it's needed. It makes sense from a business standpoint as well, where, there's enough assets to make it make sense. And also there's a huge need, for that holistic plan.
So in regard to we deal with, when we are in our instructions for our endowment engineering course, one of the things we stress is that there are 5 financial hazards. They apply to anybody. And they're, losing property by theft or destruction, being sued by third parties, cost of medical care and disability. And then there's the 2 that are most known to people, which is living too long and dying too soon. So in the case of dying too soon and on living too long, this holistic approach really is dealing with those 2 primary hazards, would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's very fair to say.
How do people approach that? Is it like you said, there were 3 things they worry about. Am I going to, am I going to live too long, run out of money? Also, how much can I spend? And I guess, what was the other part of that?
How long will I live, or how long will my money last? How much can I afford to spend, and how long will it last?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So running out of money is a fear that people generally do have.
Doesn't matter how much wealth they have either. Like it doesn't matter if it's $1 million or $10 million. I've noticed in my experience that, clients tend to have the same concerns. Am I going to run out of money? And it's like, as you very well know, it's all about your lifestyle and how you manage that wealth. But, a lot of the principles will apply depending whether you have $1 million or 10 million.
So how much effect does budgeting have on all of this? How much do you stress budgeting, if at all?
I try not to get too involved with the specific micro details of somebody's budget. If there's something that's really concerning, obviously we're going to dig into that. The biggest two spending categories tends to be housing and food, and sometimes cars will fit into that as well. So if there's kind of an outlier there, I'll tackle that. But people kind of have very unique spending habits, and I try to just take it, take their word for what their lifestyle looks like. And if it's sustainable in retirement, I won't question that. I'll only question it when their projection for retirement is not successful. That I'll say, hey, when's the last time you looked at your budget, at your spending habits, and what are you willing to cut, if anything? And then look at essential versus discretionary spending and start spending time there. But, as a financial planner, we try to look at more the bigger picture rather than kind of the micro details until it's really needed to go into that further detail.
You didn't mention two things which I do focus on, which is on taxes and interest. And when we come back from this short break, we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Our protagonist, Jack, was a 65-year-old retiree who'd always been known for his offbeat sense of humor and love for numbers. He'd been searching for a way to support his community while securing his retirement income. One day, while browsing through the depths of the internet, Jack stumbled upon an article about Tax Code 664 and its potential benefits for charitable planning.
Hello, welcome to today's edition of Route 664, the road to human kindness.
Curious and excited, Jack decided to delve further into this mysterious code. He spent hours poring over tax law books and articles until he became a self-proclaimed expert on the subject. He'd tell his friends, "Who needs Sudoku when you've got tax codes to crack?" Armed with his newfound knowledge, Jack approached his financial advisor, Martha, and shared his idea of utilizing Tax Code 664 to set up a charitable trust. He was convinced that this strategy would benefit not only his retirement, but also his beloved community, particularly the revitalization of the local park. With a twinkle in her eye, Martha acknowledged Jack's enthusiasm and praised his resourcefulness. Together, they devised a plan to establish a charitable trust that provided Jack with a stable retirement income and directed the remaining funds towards renovating the park. Word of Jack's innovative approach spread like wildfire, inspiring others in the community to explore the potential of Tax Code 664. Soon, more and more people began implementing charitable planning strategies to support various community projects, ranging from building a new animal shelter to establishing a local art center. As Jack took his daily strolls through the newly renovated park, he couldn't help but smile. His Tax Code 664 adventure had not only secured his retirement, but also transformed the community in more ways than he could have ever imagined. With a wink and a grin, Jack would often say, "Looks like the joke's on boring retirement plans." Who knew tax codes could be so much fun? Who? Remember, your financial journey can be both impactful and entertaining when you explore the potential of charitable planning with Tax Code 664. Visit EndowAmerica.com. With the right knowledge and guidance, anyone can turn their dreams into a reality. Leave a lasting legacy that benefits generations to come. EndowAmerica.com. Plan, prosper, pass on. The power of 664.
And we're back. My guest is Daniel Masuda Lehrman in Honolulu, Hawaii, a fee-only financial planner.
And a CSLP, student loan professional.
Student loan professional. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Not many people have that designation, but my wife,
I haven't heard that
grad
before,
school
actually.
loans.
Student loan professional. Okay.
Certified student loan professional.
So what do you think about forgiving all these student loans?
It's a complicated topic,
money away.
Yeah. I mean, my wife, she went to graduate school to get her occupational therapy doctorate, and really proud of her for that. But I think the reason I got the designation is once she graduated, suddenly she had all these different income driven repayment plans available. And I just frankly didn't understand enough about it. And that's in more broadly, I think a lot of people my age are struggling with managing their student debt. And even as a CFP, I didn't have enough knowledge about it. So I felt like it's something I needed to learn more about.
Very interesting. So before the break, we were talking about budget items and things that could be changed. And you left out two things that I thought were important: taxes and interest. There's a lot of people right now that are marketing to the fact that taxes is a big piece of everybody's planning. Most people don't even really know what they pay in taxes if they're W-2 employees, because they just look at the end result. But sole proprietor, people who are in business, entrepreneurs, they do know, because in many cases they're getting K-1s or, they're not getting paid the same way. So what do you do as far as taxes are concerned? Do you have a way for them to limit the tax that they pay?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you're so right that taxes is such a huge, important part of anybody's financial situation. As a investment manager, I think there's a couple principles we use to try to minimize as much as possible what clients will pay in taxes. And one of them is tax efficiency. So the concept that certain types of investments that shell off a lot of taxable income should be held, if possible, in tax deferred or tax free accounts like IRAs or Roth IRAs, and things that are more tax efficient, index funds, equities, things like that are comparatively less, tax inefficient, should be held in those taxable accounts. And so that's a way you can really compare it over time. A tax efficient portfolio that has the exact same asset allocation as somebody that's not tax efficient, over time, the difference in returns that get eroded by taxes is huge. So it's definitely a big part of financial planning, is trying to minimize taxes as much as possible. But it's, as you said, taxes is a huge realm. Yeah. That's just one very small component of it.
The Honorable Learned Hand in Appellate Court Justice, in one of his rulings, said that there were two taxpayers in the country: informed taxpayer and uninformed taxpayer. And the uninformed taxpayer, unfortunately, does pay more than they need to. So if you can inform them about that, obviously that's a big feather in the cap of your work with them. So, but interest is another factor, and with today's the economic environment that we're living in, with inflation being the way it is, there has been a tremendous increase in consumer debt. And I was just wondering what the impact that you're seeing on your clients or the people that you're working with.
Interest in terms of debt. I don't run into too many clients of mine, at least, that have issues with managing their debt. Of course, you have a few that, and this is what I mentioned before about looking at their budget. If they have any credit card debt with balances that they're carrying without paying off every month, that's a huge red flag to me that they need to have some sort of, they have a cash flow issue, right? So managing that is,
they need an immediate intervention.
That's kind of one of those moments where I said, drop everything else. We need to talk about this first, because as you know, credit card debt can be 20 to 25%. And that if you let that carry on, it's just going to bury you over time. And so making that the number one priority is oftentimes a conversation I'll have with those that have that issue. But fortunately, a lot of my clients don't. It's mostly just tackling mortgages that, that's another current issue right now. Is I have clients that have homes with a 2 to 3% mortgage, and they'd like to sell it at some point, but they just really can't let go of the idea of getting rid of that 2 to 3%
right now.
Exactly. So
more than they would save in paying that mortgage off. So, but credit cards, and unfortunately, I'm not sure about the Generation Z as much. I think they're pretty. You work with Generation Z clients a lot? Gen Z?
I feel old when I mean, I'm a millennial, but I'm no longer the young kid on the block anymore. But yeah, I mean, I struggle to understand the habits and just like the general culture of Gen Z. But no, I don't currently work with any Gen Z clients. I think most of them at least are still in the phase where they're just working on the very foundational basics of finances and so yeah, I'm mostly focusing on the baby boomers and I think the millennials that are poised to inherit a lot of those assets.
Yeah. Well, Wanda has gone one step
Don't forget Gen Xers.
Yeah. Wanda,
that's right.
Yeah. Don't forget them. But Wanda's also, she wrote a book about social charity, about what we're doing with social charity. And it's directed at Generation Alpha. And she's going to help them survive their retirement needs as well as change the world. And it's great.
I just heard the term Generation Alpha for the very first time last week because we were talking about, okay, Gen Z, what comes next? And I didn't know. I didn't know that there was already one, like there was already a name for. Yeah, right.
So they're going to come up behind us and I think they're going to be a little bit different than everybody before them. I think they've seen all the mistakes that everybody's made ahead of them. And so the question is going to be, how are they going to learn what they need to learn? Is financial literacy an issue?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In this country, it's not taught in school. I think it's something that we all kind of have to learn on our own. And for the likes of me, I don't know why it's not, at least the basics aren't taught in school, or it's not part of a core curriculum. We learn in calculus and we learn, geometry before we learn basic financial literacy. It's a good question. I personally have tried to get involved with programs here in Hawaii that will go into local schools to teach financial literacy, but there's just a lot of hoops that you need to jump through and just a lot of red tape. So it's
they don't make it easy. I was wondering that same thing. It's always been it's like you're coming in with voodoo medicine or something. I don't know what they think. Right. But do you do much work in philanthropy?
I wouldn't say I do. No. I've helped a lot of clients, I've advised a lot of clients on on different options that they have, whether it's qualified charitable distributions once they reach RMD age, where they have to distribute money, but they don't need it. So they distribute it to their charity of choice. I worked at Fidelity. They have one of the biggest charitable programs. I think it is the biggest charitable program in the U.S. Yeah, donor advised funds. Yeah. So just kind of advising on the benefits of that. But it hasn't been my focus. I'll say that.
Well, we hope you'll look at what we're doing with regard to.
I have, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And, I just started. I was listening to a podcast earlier.
Yeah, we're doing some really amazing things with the power of the 664 and the power of the pooled income fund, and so on. And the Endow American Network Foundation is a resource for planners who want to help their clients. We can mentor you and help you find ways to help them avoid taxes when you can and increase their income. It's really powerful, all by using charity. And it's a better way to get into the era of human kindness. My guest is Daniel Masuda Lehrman in Honolulu, Hawaii. And thank you very much for joining us today on Route 664, The Road to Human Kindness. We hope you continue your good work and help people there make their generational transfers without giving too much to the government if they don't have to, right? Is that the key?
Yes. Yep. And thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
You bet. Thank you very much. Yeah. That's it, folks. That's the show for today. Reminder, make sure you tune into Route 664 Radio. You can get the app on Apple and on Android. And we have the greatest music in the world. And you can hear a lot of the interviews that we're doing right now. They're replayed on the station. We love the use of that station as a way to get our message out. In fact, this will be part of what we're going to be playing on the station, Daniel. So you'll be able to hear yourself and tell your folks about it.
I look forward to it.
They get to hear what we've been talking about. And remember to go to endowamerica.com, and socialcharity.org. Both of those websites are currently active, and you can see a list of folks who do professional philanthropic planning. They're there. That is going to be the Society of Endowment Engineers, and that will be the website that folks can go to get help and get some additional financial literacy with regard to their own charitable work and saving themselves taxes. We'll see you again next week. Have a great week.
Calling all financial professionals. Become a certified endowment engineer. Are you a financial advisor, accountant, or other professional looking to take your career to the next level? Consider becoming a certified endowment engineer with the Endow America Network Foundation. As an endowment engineer, you'll join an elite group of experts trained to help individuals and families maximize their charitable giving while minimizing their tax burden. You'll learn cutting-edge strategies for leveraging powerful charitable tools to resolve complex tax problems and unlock new philanthropic potential for your clients. Here's what becoming an endowment engineer can do for you. Expand your service offerings and revenue streams. Differentiate yourself from competitors. Attract new high net worth clients. Deepen relationships with existing clients. Gain recognition as a charitable giving expert. Make a bigger, positive impact on your community. The Endowment Engineer certification process involves intensive training and testing by qualified instructors. You'll learn to understand each client's unique relationships and financial circumstances, diagnose tax problems using specialized blueprints, design customized solutions using charitable devices, guide clients through the process of strategic giving. EndowAmerica.com. If you're ready to take your financial career to new heights while making a real difference, becoming an endowment engineer could be your perfect next step. Join this group of professionals and start unlocking the full potential of charitable giving for your clients. The future of philanthropy is in your hands. Join us. Our monthly membership fee of $49 includes certification as an endowment engineer and continued learning and support with weekly Q&A with EANF Endow America Network Foundation's president, Les Winston, and unlimited access to a growing community with an unparalleled wealth of knowledge. Becoming an endowment engineer could be your perfect next step. Join us. Visit us anytime at EndowAmerica.com.